Okay, so we've been selling windows
Yep.
as a 15-year-old in your school uniform. We've gone to uni
Yep.
and done electrical engineering for a year and then
Yep.
decided we're going to work in finance.
As you do.
Then we've gone back to uni, trained to do accounting and finance.
Yep.
Finished our degree, then what?
Well, so I did my degree slightly differently.
Okay.
So by this time, I would be what would be known as a mature student in the UK. So I was over 21, 22 when I started, I think. And because you're a mature student, and the university I went to was Birkbeck University of London, between UCL and SOAS, for those that know, I had the option to do it full-time, or I could do it part-time. So full-time was over 3 years, as you would do in a uni. Part-time was doing it over 4 years, and instead of doing daytime classes, I would go 6 to 9 in the evening, 3 nights a week for 4 years. And that gave me the ability to still work at the same time. And back then, my mum had decided to buy into an optician.
Okay.
And she actually, credit to her, I just remember this, she retrained at 40 years old, or just over 40 years old, and she went back to uni back then to get her degree as a dispensing optician.
Wow.
And after she'd been working for a little while, she then she got the opportunity to buy into this optician, and she needed help, and I knew how to sell, so that just kind of worked. And I needed the money. I needed to be working somewhere else because I couldn't do RBS and uni at the same time because of the timings that I was working. Whereas the optician, I had the flexibility to then leave early if I needed to.
4:30 or whatever.
Get to uni, get to my classes, and then kind of work. And then if I needed extra time off to study and whatever, I could get that. So that's how I did that. And at the same time of working, I was working. At the same time studying, I was working with my mum, and just helped her build that business.
Wow.
That was God, I've just had so many flashbacks because I haven't spoken about this in such a long time.
Okay, and what did building that business look like?
Do you know what? Everything that I'd gone through, both in RBS and I had a couple of other odd jobs in between as well. I even worked for a call center for a little while for raising money for charities.
Brutal.
Yeah, and that was while I was at Queen Mary doing electronic engineering. So going through all those experiences, I think I'd just gotten used to people saying no so much that when it came to selling things that people actually needed, like eyewear, just so that they could see properly, I was like, oh my God, this is so easy.
Yeah.
So like people actually need this. Like they need it to see better. It was like a real problem solving product. And I was like, okay, well, I understand how it works. One of the first things that I used to do before I started selling it to understand how glasses worked was cut lenses and fit them into frames. So I knew the technical side of it as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like knowing the accounting side of a business and knowing how to sell. With the product, I knew how the product worked inside out. So when I was talking to someone about it and selling it to them, I was able to give them the technical insight into why something was better for them, which most people wouldn't be able to do because they wouldn't have that knowledge. So that became really easy. But then I don't know why I was able to do this. And I still, to this day, I can only put it down to things like intuition or just gut feel. But I was able to do things that helped us increase revenue quite significantly, whether that was offer creation, so marketing a high-end lens in a slightly different way to like how all the competitors were doing.
Yeah.
Combining that with belief that we could do better, I think is super important. Because if you heard a lot of the conversation back then, especially with private independent opticians, what you typically hear is all the reasons why private independent opticians should fail. Because Specsavers, Boots, Vision Express, all they're known as multiples. So all the franchises, they had too much power. They had too much buying power. They had too much marketing power.
Yeah, if they could sell the same pair of glasses for 200 quid less than you can,
Correct.
why on earth would someone come to you?
Exactly. So it was trying to like beat the beast, essentially. So I was like, well, what if we could do it? And I don't even know where that came from, but it was more just this case of, yes, we could do better. And it led to me doing things like getting rid of pricing on frames. So that was an interesting one because typically you'd walk into any optician and you see pricing on all their frames. Pricing, I think, creates more of an objection for people, especially at the beginning, because they'll look at something and they'll go, oh, that's 250 quid. That's out of my budget.
Yeah.
So what the coloured stickers did instead was it removed the barrier from getting someone to try something. And with something like glasses, which is quite a fashion conscious decision for a lot of people as well, getting them to try it was super important, because if they tried it and they liked it,
money didn't matter as much.
Exactly. The budget suddenly wasn't so much of an issue. Yeah, of course, you're going to get some people where the budget is definitely an issue. And then for some people, they would willing to spend whatever they could spend. But for the majority of people, they'd go into the shop thinking, I've got 100 quid to spend. But they would walk out spending 250, 300 pounds because they tried something that they wouldn't have tried otherwise. I think that was so integral to seeing our revenue spike, because even for the lower end frames, because with the UK, you've got the NHS. So the NHS give a budget towards glasses as well, where you can end up getting some glasses for free. So there was always a section for patients that were maybe under the NHS that were struggling at the time, or considered struggling at the time. They would come into the shop. We would have the lower end set of sticker glasses. And even then, they were happy to spend the extra 50 quid and sometimes 80 quid because they liked the look of it, even though typically people might have written them off as they're not going to spend any money.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was a huge thing for us.
And that's like also about understanding people's priorities, right? That like, and I totally appreciate certain people that were on the NHS definitely didn't have money.
Absolutely.
But when they were like, well, I could actually forego going to the pub for the next 6 weeks and have a better pair of glasses, some people would make that choice.
Absolutely. And I think also, if you just look at us as human beings, most of us do want to look nice.
Yeah.
Most of us do take pride in our appearance, and we want to feel good about what we're wearing, whether that's glasses or clothes or anything else. So that kind of playing on that aspect of us really helped us drive revenue. And it didn't matter if they were going for the cheaper end of glasses or the more expensive end. We were just selling more than what we were doing when prices were visible.
Yeah.
And what we did instead was we put coloured stickers on all the frames. We had a little key on the side which said which colour was...
Like what band you were in.
Exactly, what band was represented by what colour. So people could see it, but what they were seeing more of was just colours on the frame. Yeah. And then, therefore, what they were seeing more of was just the frame itself. And that's why they were happy to try it.
Yeah, yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So how did that evolve from there then?
Well, it evolved into us making more money, which meant that we were able to hire more people. And then I got into learning how to do ads as well. Okay. So I learned how to do Facebook ads to basically drive people in with a ridiculous offer on a really good pair of varifocals for them to come in. And then it was down to the team's ability to then upsell once they were in the shop. But the goal was to get them through the door on something that was seen as ridiculous, even to what like the big companies were doing. And when they came in, they were able to look at the same set of glasses. And on top of that, I was quite creative with offering much more higher end products. Because what you realize is that when people really care about something, they're willing to spend the money. And most people care about their eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not going to go down and suddenly get a new pair of eyes. Although, with AI and, having the ability to get new lenses in.
20 years ago, people weren't having their lenses replaced or having laser eye surgery as frequently as they are now. And I think glasses probably weren't as wildly as expensive as they are now either. Like you could still get an expensive pair, but it like the fashion side of it's gone bananas now. And people will spend money on shoes, glasses, things like that.
Definitely. So that's essentially how it evolved, and it got to the stage where I was able to leave the business. Yeah. And now the business is still there, team's still running. And
why did you choose to leave the business?
Oh, I think it's more down to what was I going to do for me. So that was really good to help my mum.
Yep.
That was really good to help build the team and build the business, and it's like fully sustainable. It does not need me there at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if you spoke to my mum, she'd turn around and tell you it does need me, but you know, it's the business is doing quite well without me being there. So that's been really good to see. I then went on a journey of what am I going to do with my life? Like, what am I here to do? I've done these degrees, or well, I did part of a degree. I did another one, which I finished. I decided I don't want to be an accountant. Where is my life taking me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually what led me to personal development.
Okay.
So we were with a couple of friends of ours, and they were like, "Do you know this guy called Tony Robbins?" I'm just going to be straight. I had no idea who Tony Robbins was.
Right.
Never seen a YouTube video of him. Never heard of him. Never read a book by him. Nothing. So they were like, "Oh, well, there's this event that what you now know as a preview event to sell into Tony Robbins' 4-day UPW workshop." And they were like, "Oh, he's going to be at this event, so we should go." And I was like, "Well, it's £1,000 a ticket. That is stupid. Like, who the hell would spell £1,000 to get onto a course to go and see this guy speak?" And then I started watching his videos and stuff like that, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." And I think I got swept up in the excitement and everything, so we ended up going. For those of you who are listening to this who have not been to UPW, which is Unleash the Power Within by Tony Robbins, it's like a 4-day rave without alcohol. It's
I've never done it, but
it is absolutely nuts. It's chaos. It's fun. It's it's a great experience. And then just like with any rave or any 4-day bender that you might go on, there's a come down.
Yeah.
And I think that actually put me off of personal development entirely back in 2015, I think it was. And I was like, this is insane. Like, who would go and do this for 4 days, put themselves through this kind of hell, and then have to deal with the aftermath of like lack of sleep and everything for like 3-4 weeks afterwards. So that was a way of me just going, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. What is my path? I'd gone through a pretty significant weight loss journey myself, ended up becoming a personal trainer as well. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And the personal development side really stuck with me because I think when you're going through a physical transformation, you're also going through a mental and kind of spiritual transformation at the same time. You start to believe a lot more about yourself as well. And it led me to working in personal development actually about a year later, which is how we met.
Yeah. Okay. And how does the sales world look like in the personal development space? I mean, I've encountered it, but
the sales world in personal development is intense.
Okay.
That's probably the best way I can describe it. It is, I think we were speaking about this previously, it is an aggressive acquisition of cash.
Yeah.
That is what that sales environment is like. It's what you got to realize, and I think this is where I was before I got into personal development myself. I would say I was in a pretty needy state, personally.
Yeah.
I was in a very needy state. I had no idea where I was going with myself, and I had no idea what I wanted to do next. And I was looking for clarity. I was looking for something that was going to give me direction. What I realize now is that that direction only comes through going through certain experiences.
Yes.
No one is ever going to be able to tell you what direction you should take your life in because they're not living your life.
Yeah. Pressure makes diamonds, that kind of.
That's it. Yeah. So only you can decide which direction you're going to go in, no matter what anyone else says. Yes, you can follow models of what other people have done, but yours is always going to be different because you are a different human being.
Yeah.
So that environment was high pressure. It was, again, something that I took quite naturally to just because of my experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I did quite well in it. And also I did believe in the product as well.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't believe in something, I wouldn't be able to sell it. So I think that's important as well. You've got to believe what you are essentially selling to anybody. It doesn't matter what the product is. And it was a really good experience for me to realize, and this is where I'm going to leave this. It's a really good experience for me to realize that I don't want to sell that. Because to be honest, and I've seen this myself, everything that you learn from personal development in that world is available to you for free already in a book, on a YouTube video. And the difference between the people that implement that information and people that don't is the difference between the people that see the success from it.
Yeah.
And what I came to realize was a lot of people that were getting into it were thinking that by throwing money at the problem, it was going to fix itself.
Yeah. They're looking for the magic pill.
Exactly, which we both know does not exist. You know, it's one of the reasons why I started my podcast, because that information of what everyone has gone through, and it's just, I'm assuming the same reason why you do yours, you want to collectively gather that information, and then someone listening to this who might resonate with my story, feeling lost because of the degree choices they've made or the career path they've chosen, etc. They might look at this and go, actually, I'm exactly where I need to be because I have to go through these experiences to find what my path is.
Yeah.
And you can only do that by trying out the things that you think are right for you, and they might end up being wrong. And now we are very fortunate that you have access to all these stories through podcasts like this, through podcasts like mine, through YouTube videos of people sharing their stories, where you can just listen to those stories and then take what you need and make a decision. And one thing I will say, and this is something that I used to struggle with a lot, don't take too long to make the decision, because there is no such thing as a right decision. The only decision that's right is the one that you make in that moment. And only a week, a month, a year down the line will you realize whether that decision was right or wrong.
Yeah.
But even then, I would say it was still probably the right decision because it got you to the clarity that you needed to.
You're better off making a decision than not. Yeah, exactly. And I guess, like, in defense of the personal development space, which is ironic that it's me defending it, but, I think there's a lot of people in that space that what they've done is they've consumed an awful lot of information and then they've turned it into something useful for people. The counter to that you've already touched on is that a lot of vulnerable people approach that space and just throw money at it in the hope that it will solve their problems.
I think there's always two sides to the story, right? There is the vulnerable people side of it. At the same time, there's a ton of people that will go to it that will take the information that's given to them and go and act on it.
Yeah.
Because they are at the stage of awareness or like personal awareness where they go, okay, I know this isn't going to solve my problem, but I know it might give me a clue as to what the next thing is.
Or give me a 10% gain or whatever it might be, yeah. Exactly
that. So I think it always comes down to why did you go to it in the first place? And that, again, comes down to self-awareness.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know why, if you think you're going into it because it's going to solve your problem, you're probably better off not going into it.
Yes.
If you're going into it knowing that it's not going to solve your problem and you might get a piece of information that you can then act on and implement, and it might take you a step closer to solving your problem, fine.
Yeah, you're like, I guess, like, I would describe business, life, relationships as you're constantly untangling a thread.
Yeah.
And you can go on YouTube, for example, and untangle that thread very slowly by finding the things that you need and also figuring out the things you don't need. Or you can approach someone who's already done some of that work on your behalf, pay them, and untangle that thread a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But the mistake some people make, and also how some of the people in that space sell their services, is that they're the one and only answer. And that's where it gets...
There's no such thing as one person having every answer.
Yeah.
Even the most spiritual leaders in the world will tell you that.
That's kind of the self-awareness you need to have to realise your own potential, right? Is that you'll never have all the answers.
I think, number one, no one else can give you all the answers.
Yeah.
Number two, it's impossible to have all the answers ever.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be something else that comes up that is unexpected.
Yeah.
And number three, the only person that can really give you an answer at any point in time in your life is you.
Yeah.
So you really have to, if you're going to take away one thing from this podcast, is learn to just trust yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because even though you might feel like you're doing the wrong thing, you're going to be way better off down the line when you take decisions quickly and act on them and essentially progress further because you're making the mistakes.
Yeah.
Because you're learning from them faster as well.
And I guess reframing your idea of what a mistake is. somebody said to me in an interview yesterday, actually, they said like, I really work hard on my negative thoughts. And I said, what if I told you there's no such thing as a negative thought? And they looked at me like I was an alien. And I said, look, like, I'm not an idiot. I appreciate there are negative thoughts. I was like, but what if you reframed every one of those negative thoughts as just an opinion that is helping you come to a decision? And they were like, I've never thought of it like that before. I was like, well, that is, in essence, that is everything in life. It's like, if something goes wrong, what can I learn from it? If something goes right, how can I ground myself to make sure that I don't get, like, my ego doesn't become too inflated and I lean too hard into that so-called success, because something else is coming down the tracks to knock me off my perch anyway, so I might as well kind of find the lessons in everything.
Definitely. And I think on that point as well, expect something to come and knock you off your tracks.
Yeah.
Because I think if you don't, you're going to be blindsided.
Yeah.
And that's going to be more of a shock to the system. And then it might even lead to panic and fear and all these other like negative emotions potentially taking over. And then that driving your decision making, which is not really the space you want to be making decisions from.
Yeah.
So when you expect things to take you off track, at least you can mentally prepare yourself.
Yeah, there's a Rocky quote. Life's not about how hard you can hit; it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Yeah,
and it's like, considering it's in the 6th Rocky film, it's a very poignant message that actually it doesn't matter how successful you are, how wealthy you become, how zen you become, you're going to constantly get shit thrown at you, and it's how well prepared you are to deal with that makes the difference.
We're just living in a world full of monkeys throwing feces all over the place.
Basically,
someone's going to get hit.
Yeah. So, what are you doing now?
What am I doing now? So, based on all my experiences and not wanting to be a salesperson, I sell things for a living.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I'm doing a couple of things. So the first thing is my podcast, which we spoke about, which you've been a guest on as well.
The Mindful Creator podcast.
That is the one which your clip just went viral literally 3-4 days ago.
Yeah, it's not even the best clip from that episode.
Yeah, so for everyone listening to this, check out that clip. Let's get that up to 250,000 views. It's on 150 right now.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's still wild. And the purpose of the podcast is to, number one, share people's stories so that it becomes a collective bank of personal development-esque content.
Yes.
That is then available to everyone for free. I'm never planning to charge for the stuff that's on there.
Every episode is kind of like an insight into how difficult it is to be a creator.
100%.
So it's more about how much adversity, not how much adversity you'd overcome, but how much adversity plays a role in being creative.
And I think going back to the point of, some shit's going to hit you, you realize through everyone's stories that everyone has been through shit.
Yeah.
Everyone. Like, you could be going through hell in your life right now. I've had the opportunity to interview these 2 twins, which are amazing. They're only like 23 years old now. And the 2 twins, they have been through hell. And I look back at my life going, oh my God, life was so hard. Or I've been through so many ups and downs. And I heard their story and I was like, what the fuck am I complaining about? Because
it's all relative, though.
It's all relative, 100%. But you hear that story and it just makes you go, wow.
What I find fascinating about meeting people like that, and I'm going through this myself, when I'm at my best, I'm good at this, but I'm not always at my best, is that you start to become grateful for life's lessons, that when bad things have happened to you, rather than like being that victim mindset of, oh, I wish these things didn't happen to me, or fucking hell, like these things come in threes, or whatever, like people say to themselves, you start to go, oh, right, well, I learned quite a lot there. Even with some of the most horrendous things that can happen to a human. And yeah, when you meet people like that, it's so insightful that they're like, yeah, well, we learned a lot from X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And so we want other people to learn from our experience.
Yeah, this is it. And so that's the purpose of the podcast, is to be able to share those stories to everyone so that everyone can learn, everyone can benefit. They don't have to pay a single thing, because not everyone is in the position to be able to pay for things as well. So, you know, it's there. The second thing that I'm doing, which is actually, you're going to hear about it for the first time now, because it's something that finally solidified in my mind recently. So we spoke about the sales side of things that I do. So I work with a couple of companies as a almost like a fractional sales director. So go in, help refine the sales process, help implement a sales team, which I'm still doing. And then because of my experience with podcasting, I've realized that, and people have actually started reaching out to me to say, can you interview me so that I can create better content and put it out into the marketplace?
Nice.
And I was like, well, that's genius. And this is the thing. I think those clues are always around us, and we all do things for a reason. And it's our ability to pay attention to what's actually happening around us that can then lead you to the next step in your journey. So essentially, it's a podcasting agency, if you will, that interviews the business owners of that of their business to create a human connection with their audience, which will then ultimately translate into better sales conversations that allow that company to grow. Yeah,
that's amazing.
And that's what's so currently happening.
I really like that. And how is that playing out? Are you coming up with packages? Are you?
Yeah, exactly that. So there's different ways that people can work. We need to have a conversation at a very immediate time frame about potentially sending people over to you once they've had a podcast episode done to run marketing behind the clips and stuff as well. But essentially there's packages of where people can work with me. We will create a interview style long form piece of content once a month, once a quarter, once every 6 months, depending on the person, the business, and what is being done. Because obviously every business is different. Every business is going to have different requirements. And then from that long form piece of content, we can then create the short form pieces of content that create more awareness, more authority, and ultimately more authenticity for that person.
So good.
To have a better connection with their audience. Because if that person can't connect with the audience, it doesn't actually matter what the company is. Because the purpose of a founder, a CEO, or the head of a company in some way or form is to be the bridge between a prospect and their product. The actual company is irrelevant.
Yeah, of course.
Because if that bridge doesn't exist, that person is never going to get to the product.
It's been badged as personal branding now.
Exactly.
But people didn't say that 50 years ago.
Correct.
They just took people for a coffee, or
this is it.
Walked into the bank, or sat in the doctor's surgery and got chatting. and now it's personal branding, and it's all through social media and podcasts. But it's like when I had my business partner before, we shot a documentary, and like family and friends were, "You're shooting a documentary? Who do you think you are?" And I was like, "Well, no, I need a long form piece of content so that I can break it up into digestible bites, but also so that people who are kind of thinking about working with us but can't differentiate us from the 3 million other marketing agencies there are, could go and be like, oh, actually, these are real people. There's something about them." And that's exactly what you're describing.
That's exactly it. It's bringing back humanization of what appears to be a corporate brand. Because the best way to look at this is look at all the people that have a huge following right now and look at the companies, right? Look at Gary Vee.
Yeah.
His personal page
My mate Gary.
Yeah, your mate Gary, a first name basis. So look at Gary Vee. Humongous personal following, right? But the thing that makes him his money is VaynerMedia.
Yes.
VaynerMedia has 2.5% of the following that Gary has himself on his personal page. Yet VaynerMedia, if I'm not mistaken, is doing over 500 million a year in marketing fees. So the reason they get more clients is because Gary's human. People can relate to Gary.
And
people
I think
like him.
The error's harsh, but the misjudgment people have made of Gary saying you need to do 13 pieces of content a day, you need to be omnipresent across multiple platforms, is they're all sitting there going, well, I've tweeted 6 times today and posted 5 times on Facebook and nothing's happened.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I've done that for 20 years.
Exactly.
And it's only just starting to happen now.
Exactly. Alex Hormozi spoke about this about 4 months ago. It took 4.5 years of doing a podcast every Friday for 2 hours for episode 1 to go viral.
Yeah.
4.5 years. So, and now you look at acquisition.com, you look at the number of applications they're getting to buy into their business, to help them expand, etc. They only do 15 a month, I think it is at the moment, or whatever the number is. And they're getting like over 1,000 applications a month now. No one gave a shit before. But look at his following. It's absolutely humongous because people connect to him.
Yeah.
And I think this is, again, the purpose of what I'm trying to do, not just for myself, but for all the clients that I work with as well, is let that brand build. And it doesn't have to get to 100,000 followers.
Oh, no. It could be, if it's 10 good followers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can build a very successful business off of 10 very good connected followers. So that's the point here. And I actually had this conversation yesterday with someone who's got a marketing agency as well, who turned around and said, it's
They
not
sound
about...
like a dick.
Yeah. I'm definitely not going to name drop who that was now. So, you know, same kind of message. It's not about the number of followers you have. It's about the quality of the people 100%. That you have.
Same with your database.
Yeah.
Same with your friends.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no point having 1,000 people as, quote, friends if you don't speak to them.
Yeah.
You can have 3 people and have the best friendships that life has ever thrown your way, and that will be enough.
Yeah, 100%. So, you've been an awesome guest. I ask every guest 2 questions at the end of my podcast.
Let's hear it.
One's a little bit silly.
Love it. One's
slightly less silly.
Okay.
So, question 1. What's your favourite film and why?
I'm not going to be able to narrow it down to just one.
Yeah, you have to. You have to.
If I had to pick gun to my head, favourite film of all time.
And like lie detector strapped to you at the same time.
Okay. It's going to be The Last Samurai.
Yeah!
It has to be.
I hoped you'd say that. We've had this conversation before.
It has to be. Of all the movies, I can almost see Chris looking at me from the side going, oh my God, that movie again. But I will happily watch that movie time and time again. There's just so many nuggets in that movie.
Nobody's seen it. That's what
do you mean?
baffles me. Like, if you bring it up with people, they're like, what's that? I'm like, oh, Tom Cruise plays a samurai. What?
Do you know what? I'd actually argue it's his best movie. It's one of his best.
If it's your favourite film, you'd have to.
I'm going to have to say it because obviously he's been in some absolute gems, but that movie is just phenomenal.
I really like it. It's probably my favourite Tom Cruise film.
It is by far. And I think
What's the other one I like? Collateral? Is that?
Collateral's a great film as well. But the Last Samurai, because there's so many messages in there about coming to terms with who you are and what you've done in your past.
Yeah, and doing the right thing, right?
And then ultimately doing the right thing. And I think that just resonates with me so much because I've been through so many things in my past where I'm like, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
Am I happy with the decisions I've made?
Well, and like, were you doing it for selfish reasons rather than selfless reasons?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then even getting to the stage of just standing up on my own 2 feet, not taking the instructions of everyone else around me, saying that this is the right thing to do, and just choosing for myself what the right thing to do is. That all is summed up so well in that movie.
That whole, like, this is deep. But that whole, like, he was a product of his environment, and he became a complement to the environment.
Yeah. And then for everyone else listening to this that has no interest in any of the self or personal development side of things, the swords are fucking cool.
Yeah. And Billy Connolly's in it.
There you go.
There's loads of famous people in it, actually, when you, like, rattle through, because
Yep.
Ken Watanabe's in it, Tom Cruise, Billy Connolly. There is loads.
There's some big names in there.
There's a lot of people in it, yeah.
Definitely a movie worth watching. And then you've got the compliment of Hans Zimmer doing the music
Yeah.
for the movie, which I think just makes every movie so much more epic.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to see Hans Zimmer live last year.
We did that a few years ago as well.
And he does The Last Samurai Suite as part of it. And it's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable.
The emotional connection you can have to a movie just because of the music is profound. And Hans Zimmer being a part of that movie, I think, is what completes it.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, That was my silly question, which we went pretty deep on.
Excellent.
My less silly question is, what's the best mistake you've ever made?
Oh, God. Can I give you two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bonus value.
I think the best mistake I've made, first one, is dropping out of uni.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was definitely a mistake to drop out, because it was my first opportunity to really go, can I push myself through something that I don't like?
Yeah.
And I left it.
Yeah.
And that's why I put myself back into that position, because I just wanted to prove that I could. So I think that gave me a lot of awareness about myself to just go, you know what, you can do things.
Yeah, the self-confidence that comes with
Absolutely.
it, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's the first one. The second best mistake I would say I've made is actually where I've taken my career over the last 7-8 years, because I spent a lot of time working in an industry that I have a lot of love for, have a lot of passion for, but it's something that I realized wasn't really what I wanted. It was again still going around what other people's expectation of me was, and me trying to live up to that.
Yeah.
And I think if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be sat here today having this conversation with you, saying this is how I'm working with people with podcasting and sales and everything else.
Yeah, yeah.
So do I regret it? Absolutely not, because it's taught me so much. And I think that, again, you have to go through these mistakes to be able to identify what your path actually is. Otherwise, you'll always forever be walking on someone else's path.
Awesome. Dipesh, you've been a wicked guest. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
You can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter or at any social media platform. Luckily, no one has the name Dipesh Virji. So,
Nice.
you know, I've got at Dipesh Virji for every single one of those. So find me on any single one of those platforms.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you.